Hello and welcome to the Fun Going Fast channel, and in today's video let's talk about 5 reasons to buy a used Yamaha Raptor 700R or any other ATV for that matter versus buying a brand new one. If you're torn between the decision between new and used, make sure you watch both my videos. I've got another video up on 5 reasons to buy a new one, but let's talk about 5 reasons to buy a used one. And full disclosure, I've actually never purchased a brand new ATV. I've been in the hobby since about 2011 or 12, other than riding as a kid, but with my own money I've only ever actually bought used ones. So let's talk about some of the reasons why. Reason number 1, sticker price. A brand new Yamaha Raptor 700R is $10,000. That's the sticker price. Based on your state sales tax for North Carolina 7%, that's an extra $700 on top of that. So now you're at $10,700. And then there's going to be dealer fees and maybe even a destination charge or an assembly or freight charge. And as you can see from some of these stickers, most people end up between $11,000 and $13,000 out the door. So that's a pretty big reason. Whereas the most recent Raptor I bought, when I purchased it, it was less than a year old and actually had less than an hour on it, and I paid $8,200 for it. So I basically got a brand new four-wheeler for almost $4,000 less than I would have paid for it if I had bought it new. So that's a pretty strong reason, is that savings, which goes into number 2, which I've kind of looped into as well, as those dealer fees. Not only are you purchasing the price, paying for the new price, and dealers have to operate, I get that, so this isn't a slam against you if you're a dealer, but just something that's already, the price of new ATVs is just so high now for something that's a hobby that you're going to go out, and get dirty and scratch up. So dropping the price of a vehicle, $10,000, $12,000 for something, whereas you can pay attention and pick them up for really nice ones for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 and get really clean ones. So reason number 3, if you're buying used versus new, you have way more options. If you're trying to get it from a local dealership, they might have one in stock, or these days they list ones that they're about to get that you have to either pre-purchase or put a deposit on. Whereas you can find, if you find one that's in good condition, on Marketplace, if you're willing to travel a few hours, they're going to be 10, 15, 20, 2015 and newer that you're going to be able to look at all across that area. And that's also ties into reason number 4, especially on the Raptor. There haven't been any major changes since 2015. I'm sure there'll be comments talking about things, but that's not the case, but it is. And you can Google it and you can read the magazines, but in 2015 they made the most significant updates around the motor and suspension, and then since then it's pretty much been cosmetic. And so if there's a specific color scheme you like, then yeah, you may have to buy a new one. But if they're basically the same machines, and even if you look up the parts, the rear fender on a Raptor 700, if you buy a new one, it will fit any Raptor ever made. Any Raptor 700, a new rear fender will cover. The front ones, if you notice, you might have to make some modifications, but you can still do that. If you do want to change the color scheme and you can get a really good deal, then you can order new plastics. Now those aren't going to be cheap either, but they're probably not going to be $4,000. So more options, and you're really not getting that much different technology on most ATVs these days, especially the Raptors. Reason number 4, this is kind of a minor one, but you don't have to worry about a break-in period. Most break-in periods, if you choose to follow that, that's 20 hours. If you ride an average of 3 hours a ride, which in my opinion is pretty decent, you're looking at 7 rides. And if you ride once a month or twice a month, you're looking at several months before you can get on the machine and really go at it if you're following that break-in period. Some people don't care. If you look on the message boards, people debate whether there should even be a break-in period or not, but I usually try to follow that, since the one I bought was still in that break-in period, sort of because, the manufacturer tells you to. But since I don't have as much time to ride, having a full-time job, having to ride to a park, the closest place to ride's an hour away, that was kind of annoying. And reason number 5 is, if you do decide to sell them, which I've bought and sold probably 20-some in my past few years doing this, a used one is obviously going to hold its value way better. I see a lot of people that buy brand new ones and then they don't like them, or they wanted a side-by-side, And so they're trying to sell it back for that $12,000, and that's never going to happen because too many other ones are on there for 8 or even 6 or 7. So if you buy one for 12, you're not even going to get 10,000 out of it. There's no reason. And most people, if you've got 10,000 cash, you're probably just going to go to the dealership. And the other people that are buying these, most of us normal humans like me, I would finance it. I did a lot of mine through financing through the credit union because of a unsecured loan setup I had. It still had a good interest rate. But most people, to find something in that price range, they're going to have to go get a loan on it. And you can't get a loan on a used ATV like you can through the dealership. So if you buy a brand new one, make sure you really like it and you're going to ride it for at least a few years, because otherwise you're going to take a massive loss on the value of it. So keep in mind also, when you're buying a used one, make sure you're being really picky. Like I said, especially on Raptor 700s, you can get a 15 and up and it's basically the same. Just make sure it was really well cared for, and there are a lot of people that are adults that buy these Raptors. Don't trash them. You can still get them in really good shape. You can get them unmodified, which would be my recommendation. Then you can be the one to make the changes, and it probably hasn't been ridden too hard. But if you start getting really older or trying to really get one, like I purchased one just to see, sort of an experiment. I bought an 09 for $2,600 and ended up having to have enough work done that I was pretty much, by the time I sold it, I sold it for $4,000 or I think $4,500, and I had put almost $5,000 into it. So I really took a little bit of a loss on that. I mean, I enjoyed having it, and I did a little bit of work myself, and I also jobbed it out to a really good shop locally. But that's another thing to keep in mind. Especially if you buy something that's going to need work and you're not going to do the work yourself, you're looking at $80 to $100, for labor anymore an hour, and everything's 2, 3, 4 hours. So you're $300 to $400 in plus the parts. Next thing you know, that $1,000 or $2,000 you saved, you could have just bought something much nicer and never had to do anything with it. So I wouldn't go too low or get too desperate if you can afford it, but there are a lot of good deals out there, even on Raptors, around the $5,000 to $6,000 range if you keep an eye out and are willing to drive a little bit. So those are my reasons, plus one sort of, on why I prefer used. And like I said, I've only ever bought used because you can get such better prices on them. But I have been bit in the butt a couple of times trying to get really cheap and a little thrifty on some things. But if you keep an eye out, you're really picky, and find a really nice, clean used one, then you can save thousands of dollars and get just as much enjoyment out of it. Thanks for watching, and happy riding.